What's up, everybody? In this video, we're going to go over the Amityville horror story. Was it real or was it a hoax? Leave a comment below and tell me what you guys honestly think about it. The Amityville story starts back on November 13th, 1974, when Ronnie Butch DeFeo Jr. went room to room with a gun, shooting his mother, father, and 4 younger siblings while they slept. When he was caught, he told the police that he heard a demon inside of him telling him to kill his family, and that he also believed he was possessed. Now, there's several different opinions on how the murders went down. One was it was multiple shooters and that Butch didn't act alone. Then there's the people that believe the mafia was involved and this was a mob hit. And then there's the people that believe that he was really possessed, and whatever he heard and whatever possessed him is what haunts the Amityville home. But either way, this is where the Amityville horror story originated from. The Lutz family moved in on December 18, 1975. They bought the house for $80,000 and thought they were going to turn it into their dream home. But according to them, everything that happened after they moved in was furthest from a dream. George Lutz claims that pretty much right after the family moved in, they began to be overwhelmed by an uneasy, evil presence in the home, and that they started hearing sounds and scratching noises that they couldn't explain. Also, at one point the presence got so overwhelming, they had to contact their local priest to come bless their home. But not long after the priest arrived, he himself got overwhelmed by this evil presence, and it set him packing and running out of their home. After the priest incident, everything went crazy. There was hooded figures that appeared and roamed throughout the home. George Lutz said that he was possessed at one point and started seeing green ooze bleeding out of the walls. Their daughter started seeing a red-eyed floating pig, which she ended up naming Jody, floating outside her second-floor bedroom window. Now, the craziest claim comes from Kathy, but George agrees with her and said he's seen it, that she was beaten and bruised by an unseeable force, and the same thing lifted and levitated her above her bed. That's what caused them to contact several paranormal investigators, but they ended up going with the Warrens and a news crew that came to film the whole entire investigation. Ed and Lorraine showed up in February of 1976 with a small crew from the local news station Channel 5 News. George Lutz ended up meeting them at the end of the driveway to give him the keys to the home because he refused to step foot back inside. The Warrens ended up saying in interviews that it looked like the family had just stepped out to run a few errands, that all the furniture was still in place, and there was even food still left in the refrigerator, and that they can tell something obviously scared this family enough that they packed what little things they could and fled with the clothes on their back. During the investigation, the Warrens said that they can feel the same uneasy, evil-type presence that the Lutzes had explained. And at one point, Ed had suffered from heart palpitations and had to take a break and go outside. Now, the news team that was there with them, they were actually pretty upset because after hours of investigating, they didn't capture anything. They expected to catch spirits and sounds and pictures of ghosts, but literally didn't feel anything the whole time they were there. Now, after the investigation was done, the news team and the Warrens were all sitting around going through all their footage to see if they could find anything. Now, I'm about to show you guys a picture that went on to be pretty famous, and I'm sure you have seen it. And it's supposed to be the picture of a spirit of a little boy. Now, if you look at it, at first glance, it is definitely pretty creepy and looks to be a little boy. But after it made it around, People believe it's somebody in the crew wearing glasses that poke their head out. Now, after I looked at it, I can definitely see where it could be a glare on the glasses, but looks like evil white eyes. So go ahead and take a look at this picture and tell me what you think. Once they aired the Amityville story on TV, it spread like wildfire. It went all the way across the country and then eventually the world. George and Kathy then went on a U.S. tour doing interviews for multiple news stations and radio stations. This eventually caught the eye of a writer named Jay Anson, who wanted to turn it into a book. Even though the book says based on a true story, it's definitely known to stretch the truth a little bit. But either way, it went on to be a bestseller. But then it caught the eye of a Dr. Stephen Kaplan, who was the original paranormal investigator that George contacted. He ended up canceling a week later, and Kaplan believes it's because he told George he doesn't charge anything for the investigation, but he will make it public if the story turns out to be a hoax. Kaplan ended up giving a couple interviews, and he told the interviewer that George canceled a week after his appointment and told him that he didn't want it to go public and his family didn't want publicity for their story. And he found it weird that right after he canceled, they went on TV with the Warrens and spread the story across the country, which leads him to believe it's definitely a hoax and they were trying to get money or publicity out of their story. Now, once the book was turned into a movie, it started to show more and more that there was a good chance it was a hoax. The village of Amityville got flooded with tourists showing up to look at the house, and while they were there, they actually got to speak with the Lutz's neighbors, and when they got to hear the real side of the story, people started catching on that something wasn't right. Now, not only was the Lutz's neighbors telling tourists the real story, they were also telling the news the real story, because as I said, the town was being flooded like crazy with tourists, enough that it attracted different news medias to stop by and see what was going on, and the neighbors hated it. It was driving them nuts. So they were telling everybody it's a load of BS and that, they needed to stop coming here. There's nothing to be seen. The tourism actually got so bad that the homeowners that bought the Lutz's home, Jim and Barbara Comority, sued Jay Anson and George and Kathy Lutz because they couldn't take people showing up anymore at their house all hours of the night and actually damaging their property. And what's funny is they actually won this suit, but they settled outside of court for an undisclosed amount. Well, this is my evidence I wanted to share with you guys. Of course, there's a lot more, but comment below and let me know what you think.